And welcome in, everybody, to another edition of our Tee to Green Winter Rules podcast, our Ryder Cup recap show. Looking forward to being with you here. Ryan Koziel, Kevin Sylvester, PGA Pro Jeff Metis, Jeff Blank, all part of our Tee to Green team. Our Winter Rules podcast presented by our friends at Golf Dojo. Two great locations, Transit Road, Williamsville, Niagara Falls Boulevard, Tonawanda, and Jeff Metis, a new one coming very soon in the South Downs. Tell everybody about it.
Yeah, we're at one in the Orchard Park area, McKinley, just off McKinley near Southwestern, and we do have one at 1812 in Hamburg also. So we're expanding and growing. People seem to like what we're doing.
Yeah, absolutely. So mygolfdojo.com is the website, and yeah, it's going to be winter before you know it, or cold weather before you know it here, and everybody's going to be inside the dojo. For now, though, before we start talking Ryder Cup, Kevin, how incredible has the last month been for fall golf, the start of the fall golf season here in Western New York? I mean, it has just been incredibly perfect for golf.
So yeah, it's been great. As a steelhead fisherman, I should fly fish for them, and that hasn't been great. But I'll take the golf as a trade-off. So yeah, it's been absolutely fabulous. Not just here in Western New York, but I was just on a golf trip to Indiana, and the weather was incredible there. And the folks in Indiana were saying how fortunate they feel, how good the weather is right now for golf. So, and I know we're going to talk about that a little bit later, but it is just listen, this weekend is going to be awesome too. So I'm going to tee it up a few times. And we got the game on Sunday night, so you can play Sunday during the day.
I agree. And of course, Jeff Metis, this is where we always love to tell everybody about the leaf rule that comes into play every year, because the leaves are now starting to fall.
Yeah, which doesn't exist, but it does exist if you're playing. Yeah, just have fun with it. Yeah.
You can make a local rule, can't you? Your course could put out, because Blank, didn't we do this last year?
We did.
It exists.
Yeah, you could create a local rule. Yeah, it's that time of year though, where it's going to happen, and rulings they get a little bit complicated, and everybody's got to be on board. So yeah, you can certainly make a local rule, and then it would be one of those situations where your fellow competitor, whoever is holding your scorecard, would have to agree to the decision that's being made. That cannot be made unilaterally by a player.
Okay, good to know.
Just to summarize, so if I hit a tee ball and I hit it left, let's say at my home course, Lancaster Country Club, that little grove of trees on the left, that's the miss there. And we can't find the ball because there's leaves, right? But they do a great job of clearing leaves. But we say, I know it was there. We saw it bounce. We can't find it. As long as my competitor says, okay, I agree, it should be in that area, you can play the leaf rule and drop it.
It depends what you're doing. Is it a local rule? Is there, if there's a spackling of leaves, that's is it a preponderance of evidence that the ball was lost in a pile of leaves or right off the fairway? If you snipe it in the grove of trees, 100 yards left, and I'm taking a leaf rule, that might not be the spirit of the rule. Yeah,
that's not what I said though. I said if you
listen, I saw at least one leaf in the pond where my ball had to be underneath that leaf in there, so I'm just taking it.
Yeah, has the club applied the leaf rule? Is there a local rule that's been announced in the shop or on your score sheet or whatever, any rule sheet? If not, then yeah.
Well, every golf pro, Jeff, every PGA.
Every golf pro hates this question every year that they get it.
I know. We're going to ask you every year, by the way, just so be ready for it.
The one with the divots in the fairway. Why can't we?
That's not no. But every PGA professional should just in the Northeast should enact. Hey, we have a local rule here. Starts October 1st, runs through the season. It's the leaf rule. It's a local rule, and therefore you're covered.
Sure. I'm going to make it a point. My life's work to name this after Jeff Metis if we implement this rule
or maybe in
the handbook. Yeah, we want to name it the Metis rule.
Yeah,
that'd be great. I would love that. Yeah,
we'll call it the Metis touch.
Yes, that's right.
Just give it a little fluff when it's under the leaf. So, I found
that's right.
Yeah,
perfect. Yeah, I love it. All right. Well, we'll bring back the leaf discussion next late September, early October, Jeff, for when next year's podcast rolls around. But we want to get to the Ryder Cup.
Yes.
I know you do. We want to get to the Ryder Cup, and yes, one with a lot of storylines. especially for one that started off looking like an absolute thrashing of Europe by the United States. It got very interesting on Sunday. In fact, there was a moment there where Europe was maybe almost even in trouble. But so many things happening in those final matches. You had obviously the backstory line of Europe and the United States each getting a half points each because of the Hovland withdrawal, because of that injury. So there's a storyline there. Then, of course, you had the retain versus winning conversation that I know if you were watching the NBC broadcast, Paul McGinley was going into it quite detail, how they do not want to retain it. They want to win it. And going into that example, and then he was calling out the fans for leaving because he wanted to know, don't you want to stay and see if it's a draw? All that was going on. And then, of course, there was the crowd storyline in terms of what was happening there. We even saw a report today from the Telegraph out of the UK that said that Team Europe was even thinking about maybe stopping play because the crowd was so bad. I'll have some thoughts on that in a moment here. But and then, of course, the first 2 days, we're sitting here talking about just how Europe couldn't miss a putt the entire time. So, Kevin, out of all those storylines there, what jumped out to you in terms of like how you'll remember this Ryder Cup first?
Well, this seems like all the recent Ryder Cups. USA gets blasted in team play, and then individuals they dominate. But they're so far behind they can't catch up. And I don't know. We're going to talk about why is that? Why can't the Americans seem to play foursomes, alternate shot, the way the Europeans can? And why can't they play four ball too? Like four ball, you think they would thrive in four ball. Everybody's playing their own ball. It's like playing individuals, but they're still unable to do so. They get in this giant hole, and then they have to rally. And I think that's certainly part of why they play well in singles, because they've got to go out there and perform, and they're under the gun. It's kind of like being 3 shots back on a Sunday in the back nine, at a PGA Tour event that you're trying to win. It's sometimes easier to play that way than it is to play with a lead. So that sticks out to me. This other thing that sticks out, by the way, they could say they were not going to play. Come on. They were going to play. They were never not going to concede a match or not play. And why were the fans a surprise? Nobody, come on. No one should have been surprised that the fans misbehaved. I'll put it that way. And language is used. If you've gone to any Yankee game, any sporting event in New York, they get rowdy. All right. And I think that's being polite. I expected it to be that way. They cross the line. Absolutely. When you're targeting family and stuff, throwing a beer, that's just dumb. Maybe alcohol infused there. I don't know. But I wasn't surprised by that. And neither should the Europeans have been surprised by that. What I don't think is okay, seeing guys yell at the crowd and stuff. And again, it's easy to sit here and say that because we're not the ones being told, F you this, F you that. And I get it. When it got personal, and it shouldn't have got personal. The most popular golf in the world. You know what? Everybody's cheering Rory at the Masters, is yelling things at him there. I mean, that was unfortunate. Those are my big takeaways.
I just thought Europe just played so very, very well, and they made putts and they hit great shots and they shot great scores, and they just were. We didn't play terrible, I didn't think, and we just couldn't score like they could score, and they were the better team that week, and I did find the fan behavior took away from the event, and I don't think it can continue in this vein or be accepted as the norm as we go forward for fan behavior in events like this, because golf likes to set itself a little bit apart. We're a little more genteel, a little bit more gentlemanly. We respect the game, we respect our competitors, and that went beyond that, and I thought it cast a bad light on the event and took away from a bit of the event and a bit of the shine on the event, as opposed to negative. Cheer for your players, right? Don't cheer against the other team. There's a way to do it. People are going to get drunk and say dumb stuff, but it felt like it was rampant and maybe tolerated more than it should be. I don't know if it was tolerated more than it should be, but it did detract, I think, from a lot of the event. And I'm disappointed that it ended up like that. And I hope this isn't a trend that continues at the Ryder Cup.
Brian,
Jeff Blank, go ahead.
Go ahead, Blank, and then Brian. I'm curious to hear Brian's thoughts after Jeff's thoughts here, because Brian, you were there too.
Yeah. My main takeaway is you have a baseline of performance that gets you qualified for the Ryder Cup from a player standpoint, right? There's a point system. There's a baseline of performance. And what I think Europe is able to do consistently, Ryder Cup after Ryder Cup, is take that baseline and blow it out of the waters. They go to the next level of performance. And we're going to show some stats around that later in the podcast here. But they don't just perform how they normally perform. They take it to the next level. The U.S. doesn't do that. So even though Scotty Scheffler, we might have the numbers around how much under par he was, these players on Europe are going way beyond what their normal performance is. And that's really my takeaway of this Ryder Cup and previous Ryder Cups.
So if you don't know, as Kevin mentioned, I was there and I definitely heard a lot of things that were said. Part of, I guess, my sports bucket list, I told you guys on our preview show, I wanted to be on the first tee for the introductions, at least during one of the days. And luckily we were there, my son and I, on Saturday afternoon for the afternoon 4-ball session. We got to hear all the introductions, the anthems, the flyover, and it was a really, really cool scene. And when each player was introduced, I mean, it was goosebumps throughout. And the cheers for the American players were as loud as it, could be for that amount of people. And the boos for the Europeans, which I thought, again, in that setup, like, that's great. And, I think the European players even kind of enjoy the fact that they're going to get booed as loud. One comment quickly on the crowds. I was following McIlroy and Lowry together that Saturday afternoon for about 3-4 straight holes, early to late back front nine. And maybe like holes like 5 through 7, 5 through 8. And it definitely, I thought, got out of hand. It felt uncomfortable to me because of the families and the wives and the kids walking inside the ropes with them. I'm sure at the end of the day, Rory and Lowry and these European players have heard a lot of stupid stuff said to them, at them over the years. I'm not saying that's right or wrong, but to me, noticing and just, noticing the wives and the kids and the families walking by on the ropes, that's what, to me, I thought maybe made it very uncomfortable to listen to. And the excitement of rooting against them as U.S. fans were, like, to me, it diminished it in the sense that there were a lot of people that were cheering for the United States that wanted to make a ton of noise that I think also felt the same way. I think we've seen a lot of social media reaction of that. We know we've all been at a Bills game. There's 70,000, 65,000. And guess what? 99% of them are amazing Bills fans that even treat the opposing fan who might be sitting in the row next to them very well. And you can have good spirited fun and, jabbing back and forth, like I think that most fans did. And I think the Ryder Cup is cool, that it's different than other events. And I would say when Rory gets introduced on the first tee, you should be able to boo as loud as you want. And when he misses a putt on the green, you can cheer as loud as you want. But when you're making comments about his wife, or when you're saying things about Fleetwood's wife, or you're saying things about other people's kids, like, to me, that's just way overboard. It shouldn't be, not only in golf, it shouldn't be in any sport, to me. And, so that part, to me, I did not like. And, for all that goes with New York fans and boisterous USA fans, like, I hated that was a storyline. I will say this. I think being there, security should have been better. There was no threat ever really of you seeing people like moved out of the way or escorted or anything like that. To me, it looked like it was just free for all. Yell what you want. I'm not putting it on volunteers. That's not their job. There should be security. And I will say that being there in the morning, there was an MC that also was supposedly trying to, quote, fire up the crowd on the first tee, that I thought was done in very, very poor taste. They were doing chants that were failing miserably and sounded awful, but one of them also was a chant from the host MC of this event that said, F you, Rory. Like, if you are on the microphone representing the event that's run by the PGA of America, if I'm a PGA pro, Jeff Metis, I felt bad for you and all of your fellow pros, because I'm like, this person is on the mic as the MC chanting those things. Like, I just thought it was way out of line.
I know our CEO wrote a letter of apology to the European players and the team, and I got to read that this morning, apologizing for the behavior and promising to do better next
Yeah.
time, because it was unacceptable in the eyes of the PGA of America and everybody aligned with that event. We were tremendously disappointed.
Yeah. Now,
Brian,
was,
can I
go ahead.
can I just say something about golf fan? Like, I was annoyed Friday morning watching. Well, it just seemed like, and this is not just happening at the Ryder Cup, by the way. There is this urge for, I'm put the golf bro to try to say the most funny thing out in the crowd all the time at every event. And it's annoying as someone who walks inside the ropes to work. And anytime, and I've become over the years, I keep an eye out. I can tell when these guys are like, oh, here's the announcer and the mic's near, and I'm going to say something, so clever and funny. And, so then I'll move.
So they'll try to catch you on an open mic when your mic's open.
Yeah.
Right. Yes. But they just say, like, they say it at the wrong times, and it's just, it's, I don't know. It's grown tired. And so people were trying to do that on Friday morning. And then it shifted from trying to be funny to being vicious. And the other thing I think that needs to be remembered about the Ryder Cup, this is an exhibition. It's an exhibition, right? I mean, it's about this cup. These guys are all friends on each team. Yeah, they want to beat each other's brains out. They're friends. The European team, most of them live in America, right? So it's not like it's the Olympics, where you see some athletes whom you never compete against and such. And it just it was unfortunate that occurred. I do have a question about course setup, because Keegan brought this up, and the reason, I just spoke to somebody earlier this evening who had a chance to play the course on Monday as part of a corporate gig. Super jealous.
Yes.
And said, he goes, and he played it before, and he goes, and Brian, I know you've played it before, and he said Beth Page wasn't Beth Page. Like, it was all, the fescue was all cut down. He thought it was too easy.
I'll say in person, I agree with that comment. Jeff, I'll go quick here. Anytime there was a drive in the rough, did you ever see a shot that you're like, oh my God, that is buried? Like, no, they all set up. I will say some of the logistics, I just know from playing there before, like the first tee, how they were essentially, aiming to drive the green. They had to use the forward tee there so that they could set up the massive grandstand. Normally the back tee is back about 60 yards. So though the enticement to go over on that first tee, that I'm sure, that was probably the most watched tee shot, obviously, of any hole, that was pushed way up. So that hole was definitely in that capacity. Beth Page, when you get to the one side of the road, the other side of the road where holes 2 through 14 are, there's not a lot of room for spectators. So the bleachers and everything that goes into it, the corporate hospitality tents, the food tents, the bathrooms, all these sort of things, they take up space. And some of the tees that they didn't get to use push them up. So that was there. The greens were soft because it rained very hard all day Thursday. The rough was cut down. Keegan Bradley talked about course setup, thinking that maybe they made a mistake. If you look at what U.S. players are, look at J.J. Spawn. He won on Oakmont. Russell Henley always plays really well at the hard courses, right? At the Arnold Palmer Invitational, Bay Hill, maybe the hardest non-major track that they go to every year. You've got players that are outstanding ball strikers like Scotty Scheffler. Well, because the rough wasn't penalizing and because it played so short, it turned into kind of a wedge and putting contest. And I think maybe some of the things that some of the U.S. players could have had an advantage on some of the European players if they weren't able to take advantage of because of that setup.
Yeah, I always defer, they're playing the same course, you know what I mean? And I know they like the fireworks and they like the birdies, and they want to see birdies, they want to see eagles, they want to see low scores. And both teams played the same course. We just got our butts kicked. And there is no ifs, ands, or buts about it. We played okay. They were way better. And you can look for a million different reasons. You can say, well, we don't gel as a team. We didn't play well. We didn't play well enough to win.
Okay, blank. answer me that Data Golf put out a thing like the worst possible combination. It could have been Morikawa and English, and he put them out there twice.
132nd out of 132nd pairings.
Yes.
Put them out twice.
Listen, I'm someone who I was on record. I was not picking Morikawa before.
Yeah.
Because I just thought he made it on points based upon Tour Championship, the Century, and he'd been on a skid, an un-Morikawa-like play, in my opinion. And to roll him back out there, I thought that was a huge mistake.
And those decisions you can question for sure. Yeah, things like that. That's a coach's decision.
And the players you put out in foursomes versus 4 balls, right? I think you want your best putters in foursomes, right?
Yes.
So you can strategically kind of plan out who's going to have the putter, who's going to be putting. And they sat those guys in the morning on Friday, and it was unbelievable.
How Sam Burns was not playing foursomes,
yes,
is just bizarre to me. You've got the best putter in the PGA Tour, an alternate shot, and you're not putting him out there in foursomes?
Right.
What? Wow.
It was wild.
Well, Jeff, so the putting, Jeff, I know you've got some numbers you want to share here with our viewers about just how good Europe was on the greens. They were obviously outstanding here. So why don't you explain to everybody what you just put up here on the screen?
Yeah, so courtesy of Data Golf, gotta recommend them. They're outstanding putting the numbers together. But I tried to pull performance in the Ryder Cup versus performance in the 25 season to kind of see who stepped up their game into the Ryder Cup and who didn't. You can kind of see it's pretty obvious with the red and the green. Team USA just did not bring not only their standard game, which would be your 25 PGA Tour season, but they were worse than their baseline for 25. Or if you look at the European team, I mean, look at those deltas between how they were during the season in 25 versus how they performed in the Ryder Cup, when you're seeing deltas of 3.4 strokes from Sepp Straka, who normally just gets a quarter of a stroke positive in the PGA Tour season. He brings a massive increase into the Ryder Cup. So again, it kind of goes back to the point of why is it that Team Europe can elevate their game and Team USA cannot? That's kind of the nut that I just can't seem to crack. And, you know, I haven't gone back to previous Ryder Cups, but you kind of get the feeling that it's the same story over and over, is Europe just elevates their game and the US doesn't. So when you look at the total average, the US was losing a stroke versus their baseline in the 25 season, whereas Team Europe was almost half a stroke better than their baseline heading into the season. So
you killed my Sam Burns argument there. He's like, the worst.
it is true. Yeah, it does kind of kill that.
Struggle.
But that's a good point as well, is, you know, we talked about, hey, we got to get good putters on the team, and then they don't bring their game. I mean, what are you supposed to do if you're Team USA?
Well, Justin Thomas said that, you know, right? Like when Keegan was asked, what can you do better? And Thomas spoke up in that giant press conference and said, well, he's got to get us to make more putts, which, how do you do that? That's not on your captain. That's on the player.
Right.
On the player. You got to make putts. And
the funny part is the data tells you that from a 25 season, the U.S. had a better putters on the team than Europe did.
Yes.
So it's just unbelievable. I don't know how you fix it.
No, I'll go, you know, there's a couple players I want to comment on quick here on this board here. Blank, I think when you and I were texting, when I was just, you know, on the course and wanted to share my insight of like, here, what am I seeing? I think I texted you, I'm like, is Justin Rose now one of the all-time great Ryder Cup players of all time? Like, this guy on the green is just an absolute bull. He just, anytime there's a clutch putt that needs to be made, he's there to make it. I just think he's tremendous. His legacy in terms of like how he'll be remembered, I still think there's obviously maybe a little bit more to go in terms of maybe how we'll think about him. But I mean, man, when we think about the Ryder Cup bests, you know, maybe we think of Poulter and maybe we think of Sergio and maybe going back to Seve with older times and things like that. But you know, over the last decade, to me, when I think of the Ryder Cup and maybe who's the most money player, most clutch player, like I feel like my answer is Rose, and he came through again with that.
He really did, and he's 10 years older than the next youngest player out there, right? Or the next oldest player out there too. So kudos to him. And, you know, and I don't know what you'd like, Jeff Blank, you're right. What do you do? How do you fix it? I don't know how you fix it. We got beat. You had a bad week. You got beat. Yeah, but it does seem to happen at the wrong time during the Ryder Cup, and I don't know, if that's sports psychology, if that's maybe a new psychologist for the team. I don't know how you resolve that. We did have good putters on the team. They struggled. But good players, they didn't play their best. Their players, they made timely putts. They played well. They were better than us. And you can break down all the day. You can only each player walks into that bringing a different set of circumstances into his round. Sam Burns, maybe he hadn't been putting well lately, or something happened in his putt, so he lost confidence, and you never know the psychology of the players. And you can look back and say, well, maybe shouldn't they have played out in California, or what? Who knows? Give them time off, and you can look at it 6 ways to Sunday, but each player's got to look at themselves and figure out why they didn't play it better than they should have, or they should have played better.
Let me ask you guys this question. And hearing like Shane Lowry, right after he talked about this would be the greatest thing that he ever did, and we see him right there on that chart, over a couple strokes gained. They grow up dreaming of making that putt to win the Ryder Cup. Do you think U.S. golfers grow up dreaming that, or do you think they grow up dreaming sinking a putt to win the Masters or the U.S. Open?
I'll even add to that.
Yeah,
I think you're right, Jeff. And I'll add to that. Shane Lowry was interviewed, and he said he's won the Open Championship with somebody coming from Ireland. That's probably the most premier major out there for somebody in Europe. He said winning the Ryder Cup is more important to him than that individual achievement of winning the Open Championship. So that tells you, I don't think you'd have a U.S. player say the same thing.
And I, as a player, I think I'd much rather make the one on 18 to win the Masters than the Ryder Cup. That would be my preference if you gave me two. I'd take the Masters.
This group of players, if you ask them, what player inspired them, it was Tiger. Well, what does Tiger emphasize his entire career? Winning majors. Yeah. Tiger really never talked about winning the Ryder Cup, and it just wasn't. I'm not saying he didn't want to. It's just he talked about winning majors. And all of these players who are 20 years younger than Tiger, they grew up as a kid loving golf and wanting to be a pro. And, they watched Tiger. And so the majors to them are it. These players here, they, all watched Sergio and watched Seve and what, John Rahm and these, European players. This is what they dreamed of. So maybe that's just, Kevin, maybe you're right in that sense that it's just, maybe that's just kind of what these players have grown up like. Is trained for the right word? I don't know if there's a better word for that, but maybe this is like what is in their mentality. And I don't want to say that anybody on Team USA doesn't care about the Ryder Cup, but for these European players to value it so much, I guess I understand why.
Well, USA, I'm getting tired of looking at how bad this thing is. Are we taking this thing out?
Yeah.
All right.
There we go.
You'd rather look at me. Wow, that's bad.
By the way, the U.S. players, they do something like this every year. They have the President's Cup against the international.
That's what I was going to ask, Kevin. That was my question to you guys. Because is it not such because next year they got to go play the President's Cup and then it's a Ryder Cup. And Europe, they just get one event every 2 years, and the rest of the world gets one event every 2 years. And every fall we go on these expeditions and these fun events. And then does it lose its appeal to the players? I mean, I don't think it loses its appeal, but does it lose? Is it hard to focus?
Well, I guess I think, does the Ryder Cup mean more to the Europeans? Maybe it does, because they only do it. They only get together to play as a team every 2 years, right? And the U.S. guys, the stars, they play every year. Mm-hmm. And listen, I've been there for the President's Cup. They are as fired up to win that thing. Like it's not like, oh yeah, we expect to win. Like no, they want to win it and go out there. It's a competition. It's an exhibition. And believe me, they definitely want to go out there. They want to maintain their dominance. I'm just saying maybe that's also why it means so much to the Europeans, because they only are in that unique, special thing every other year, whereas U.S. is every year.
I would agree.
I think it's a layer. Yeah, I think for sure. All right, so before we wrap up the Ryder Cup discussion here, I know we got to get to one other thing too before we wrap up here. Winter Rules podcast presented by Golf Dojo. Thanks for being with us. I'm Brian Koziel, Kevin Sylvester, PGA Pro Jeff Meadis, Jeff Blank. Thanks for watching, whether you're watching on X or on Instagram or on YouTube on our T2G Buffalo social media pages. Okay, the next Ryder Cup in Ireland. What's next here? I know instantly people always want to say, like, who's the next captain? How much value is in that? Jeff Meadis, we'll start here with you. The immediate answer that seems to be right away that people want to talk about is, can Tiger Woods commit to being the next captain for the United States? Is he the best choice? Is he going to maybe be a part of what could be some sort of solution? We had this task force a few years ago after Phil Mickelson called out Tom Watson, all these sort of things about getting the players more involved and trying to make them more of a unified team for whatever that is worth or whatever that's overblown. But I guess I'll just plain ask you right here, Jeff, is Tiger Woods the solution to solving maybe these recent Ryder Cup woes for the United States?
I don't think so at all. And I know Tiger's been approached about it before and hasn't chosen to be the captain or didn't have any interest in being the captain. Maybe he doesn't feel like he still wants to compete, or maybe I don't know. But I don't think a captain, Tiger as a captain, would have made any difference this week either way. Maybe the couple pairings, maybe a pointer, but I don't think it would have affected how the players putted or competed.
Unless Tiger was the one putting the ball.
Yeah,
then that could have made a difference. But
that would,
no.
Yeah, he was the best that ever did it. So yeah. And he wasn't so great in Ryder Cups. He never dominated a Ryder Cup.
Yeah. All right, Kevin. So let's skip past the captaincy then, unless you want to jump on Tiger. But what is your, so if I was going to give you a list of solutions to fix the U.S. Ryder Cup situation, like, what's your number one?
They got to make more putts. Period. And you know what? Don't go chalk on captain selections. All right.
Yeah.
Pick some grit. Pick more grit. I didn't think they had enough gritty players. Lucas Glover, I thought would have been good on that team.
Yep.
Ball striker, horse for course.
Won a major at Bethpage.
Yes.
09, the Open, U.S. Open.
So
Yeah.
I think they really, the captain's got to say, go with some gut picks there and not be, hey, this guy finished 7th, I got to take him. Like you've got to go with form. And
ironically, Morikawa was 7th.
I know, that's why I said
yes.
that. And I got nothing against the guy personally. I'm just saying
right.
he was not himself. He was not Colin Morikawa, right?
The whole year.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
Got all the points last year. Yeah.
Right. I mean, it doesn't mean he's not a great player. It doesn't mean he's not going to have success going forward, because he probably will. My captain's idea, hey, you know what? Bring in Freddie Boom. Everybody loves Freddie Couples. And you know what? He's not playing with these guys. So when a team comes and says, put us back out there, you're like, no, I'm not putting you back out there. You know what I mean? Like, and I thought Mickelson had an interesting thing he tweeted out, like, what about Coach K? Which would totally be outside the box to bring in a coach, right, to be the captain of a team.
I don't mind that idea. Yeah.
Right. I mean, it'd be interesting to have a championship caliber coach from a different sport.
I heard Nick Saban as well was thrown out there.
Nick Saban, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I just think, that could be a panic move also, because again, as your chart showed, Jeff Blank, it was all about the flat stick, and that's what it always comes down to in golf. And you look at wins on Sundays in the PGA Tour, most of the time it's who makes putts. Period. That's the game, putting.
And it made it tough. I don't want to totally go back to course setup, but with it being so easy, trailing, birdie wasn't winning holes. So it was very tough to catch up on Friday and Saturday. Sunday, different story, singles, sure. But, when you're playing 4 balls and you got 4 of the best players in the world, birdie's not going to win the hole. So what do you do at that point? It's very difficult to catch up.
You play better. You play better.
Play better.
Yeah, you know what? That's the answer. Yeah. Play better, period. Yeah. Right? That's always the answer.
Yeah.
Always the
answer.
That's
right.
You got to rise to the occasion.
Yep. All right. Well, the next Ryder Cup 2027 is in Ireland, and then 2029 it's back in Minnesota, which will be the next time it's in the United States.
Did you hear how much it costs to stay a night at Adair Manor? Like Luke Donald like leaked in the press conference, $1,500 a night. Brian, I don't think you're going to that one.
Well, you're gonna have to get the Tee to Green helicopter to go over the Atlantic Ocean. I don't know if it's gonna be ready or not by then.
The helicopter or the jet? You can pick between the two.
Kevin said I couldn't. Kevin said the jet was not working. I had to take the helicopter to Bethpage.
Okay.
We had a Tee to Green.
He was in Illinois this weekend with it. That's why. Yeah.
That's right. Yes, Kevin. Tell us about your fun golf experience here before we go.
A couple colleagues from PGA Tour Radio. We called it the mini PGA Tour Radio Summit. Will Haskett and Mark Zecchino from Golf Talk Canada. We had a great time. Zecchino played unbelievable golf. I made the mistake of not bringing my gamers because I was afraid, the airlines would damage them. Mm-hmm. And that was a mistake. It definitely cost me strokes for sure. But we played Victoria National. I don't know if you guys have heard of that. It's one of the Dormy Network clubs.
No.
It's, I think, number 60 in the top 100. Unbelievable. We played that on Saturday. And the final 5 holes, they call it the Gauntlet. When they had the Corn Ferry Tour finals there a few years ago, it was the highest scoring stretch of holes all season long. And I could see why. It was just incredibly difficult, but awesome. And then we went to French Lick Resort, which I highly recommend. What a trip that was. You go by Larry Bird's home to get to the resort. And they have 2 courses there, a Donald Ross course, the Donald Ross course at French Lick, which was great, typical Donald Ross, the greens are going to get you. And then it's up there on golf experiences. The Pete Dye course at French Lick Resort. The Corn Ferry Tour finals are there next week. When you see it on TV, you're going to say that place looks awesome. And it is. It is unbelievable. You may have heard of the course. It tips out at 8,100 yards. We did not play that. We played it at 6,700, which was plenty long, let me tell you.
8,100?
8,100.
That doesn't even make sense.
The 16th hole plays 300 yards, par 3 from the tips. We played it at 205. Water all down the right, fescue all down the left. There's the only bailout was a bunker. I aimed at that, hit the cart path, and went over the fescue, so I had to take a drop. But it was phenomenal. Just an absolute treat. And they do a fabulous job with the whole thing, with the caddy afterwards, how they treat you. Maybe we'll take a TD Green trip there sometime. Because
I was going to say, you got this PGA Tour radio trip, I think. TD Green trip is next.
We need TD Green Summit.
The Summit.
It would be special, boys. It was great. Yeah. Awesome time.
Very cool.
Kevin's going to schedule that TD Green Summit at a putt-putt nearby.
Hey, I did win. I don't know if you guys saw.
We did.
Oh, we saw.
We did.
We saw.
You didn't.
You got to share. You just started. You got to share.
Listen, kid, go ahead. I'll say it. I'll say it. I don't want Kevin to make a secret. Kevin, congratulations. We saw you had a putting contest at Lancaster Country Club, and you represented TD Green very well by winning. So congratulations.
Thank you.
You should have announced Kevin as the champion heading into the podcast.
When I introduced the show, I should have. That's my fault.
I did ask my boss for PGA Tour Radio next year or in the season if we could start. We have superlatives. You might say like, "Hey, 4-time winner of the Western Europe PGA Media Award." Some host of TD Green. Yada yada. I said, "Hey, can we say the 2025 Lancaster Country Club putting champion?" He says, "That's great, but no."
They really wouldn't. They have fun with that stuff.
I will tell you.
I thought they would.
I will tell you, it was very cool how Mike Zabel and the staff set it up there, where it was kind of like a compass. So you had a foursome, and you got assigned a color before you went out on the golf course, and so it just rotated the compass, right? And so you had a color you had to putt from, and then the top score from each color advanced to a putt off on the 18th in front of everybody. And I tied in the blue category. We were both 1 under. We were 35. It was so hard. And so we had a putt off. I survived that to go on to 18. And on the second hole, I had to lead out of rotation. We tossed tees again. I was first, and I made the putt. And the other 2 gentlemen just missed it. So it was cool. That was fun.
Yeah, have to do that at the Duster next year, Kev.
That's what I said. Maybe I ought to enter the Duster next year.
Yeah.
You know, I haven't checked your LinkedIn. Is that a resume line on there?
Not yet.
2025. Okay.
I don't know where to put it.
Okay.
Yes, is the
In
word.
bold,
Yes.
in underlined. Yeah.
Maybe I'll get
Just trying to figure out how high to put it up.
Our big voice to say, "Hey, you're listening to Tee to Green with Brian Koziel, Jeff Meadis, Jeff Blank, and the 20."
I like it.
That's right.
Nah, maybe I won't. Maybe I
No,
won't.
let's do it.
That's right. All right. Before we wrap here, a quick shout out. And I know you were talking about your friends at Lancaster. Well, I want to talk about a fellow member of mine at Pendleton Creek. In fact, our good friend Mike Washington from Ivy League Construction, who was a big supporter of our Duster putting challenge this year. His son Parker is a very good player, plays on the Star Point high school golf team. For those of you that don't know, I coach high school golf at Sweet Home, so I kind of been following high school golf quite a bit because I'm in the middle of it. Well, Parker was playing in a match for Star Point against Williamsville East at Transit Valley, and on the 9th hole, which is a par 3, if you know Transit Valley, he got a hole in one in a match,
Hey.
Star Point versus Will East. And
Awesome.
what was really cool is that when the players are done playing, they stay on the 9th green and watch. So there were quite a few players from both Will East and from Star Point that witnessed it, including both coaches. And Parker, when I saw him, I congratulated him. He said he was picking up his tee. He didn't see it go in, but he heard everybody roar. And then his whole Star Point team ran at him, and they all braced. So a cool moment, high school golf, a hole in one. So kudos to Parker Washington from Star Point High School's team, a hole in one at Transit.
I'm going to see Mike next week. I can't wait to congratulate him on that. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Really cool. And the high schoolers will be participating in the ECIC tournament at Kevin, your course at Lancaster on October on October 14th. It'll be the top 60 players in Erie County competing. So that's try to move on to sectionals.
We should
go
live, like from our phone. Like we could announce that.
There's going to be a Koziel playing as well, from what I hear.
Yes, my son Jack will be playing as well, representing Will East. So he's going to be excited. And I'll have a couple of I should have a couple Sweet Home guys there playing from my team too. So it'll be fun. Kevin, what do the high schoolers need to know about Lancaster to play it well?
Wow. Well, I'll tell you what.
Tell me what I should tell my boys that are playing in it here. How do they score well at Lancaster?
Tell them to go read the putt from all angles. All angles, because the greens, we were punched last week. I say it was early last week, so they should be healed just in time. I'll play it tomorrow, so I'll know. And I'm gonna play Saturday. I'll know, but
maybe Sunday. Yeah,
I would definitely. And you
course
know
is closed Monday. You'll probably play it.
They're playing 18 holes, right? 18 holes.
Yeah, they play 18. Yeah.
Okay. So there's only 3 opportunities in the par 3s, and that could be the difference maker. Those because the par 3s are not easy. I would tell them 3's a great score. Take 3 and run in all 3 of the par 3s, and they will definitely gain strokes on the field. No doubt about it.
Okay, good advice. All right, Jeff Meadis, one more time here. If people want to start thinking about taking lessons with you here into the fall, how do they do it at Golf Dojo?
Yeah, go to mygolfdojo.com, and we're going to be setting up an academy this winter. We've hired some other PGA professionals. We got some pretty exciting stuff coming as far as the instruction end at Golf Dojo's happening this winter. So look forward to that.
Awesome.
Okay, very cool. Mygolfdojo.com, or you can email Jeff just directly if you want to ask him a question about lessons.
Yeah, Jeff at mygolfdojo.com. Yeah. Pretty easy.
I just sent a friend your way today, Jeff. Somebody reached out to me and said, "Hey, who should I get lessons from?" And I said, "Oh, hey, Jeff Meadis is the guy. He's the man."
All right, I like to do. Yep.
Let's finish up, Cozy, with a Sabre take. All right. Season starts a week from tonight, right?
Yep. And it'll be the Rangers on opening night, and it looks like Alex Lyon will be goaltender number 1 maybe here. Is that Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen re-injured himself last night? I know Lindy Ruff didn't give a ton on it, but I would say it's trending towards us seeing Alex Lyon on night 1.
All right. Do they make the playoffs this year? Do they make the playoffs this year? Everybody.
I'll give you the one positive of the preseason. Josh Norris looks really good. So if he can stay healthy, maybe Josh Norris turns out to be the best player in that trade.
Okay. So let's go around the horn, and I'll start. Do they make the playoffs? I want them to, but I don't see it. Meadis?
Yeah, I think they're gonna. I've been listening and reading a little bit, and some of the guys that are into the numbers, like Jeff Blank here, really are really favoring a good season for the Sabres. So I'm gonna go with the data guys on this because my knowledge is not that voluminous of hockey. So
Yeah, I got to add to that. My knowledge is lacking. I haven't really been following the team for many years now. So I got to ask Brian, if they were to make, or Kevin, if they were to make the playoff, who's the teams they need to jump? Because there's some that are just set. So like, who's the team that needs to fall out for them to make it?
Yeah, there's
It's not Florida. It's not, you know.
Florida, Toronto, and Tampa are in their division is just so good. But that middle section of younger teams that the Sabres were supposed to be kind of competing with last year that they didn't. It's the Ottawa, Montreal, Detroit group. Ottawa and Montreal were the 2 wild cards last year. So those are the 2 teams for me on paper that they should be equally as good at. So I think that's your answer. They have to be better than Ottawa and Montreal.
Brian, so do they make it? Do they make it?
Yeah. I will say, look at last week. I was picking Europe, and then I felt like I was like doing a disservice here to everybody. So I got swayed into picking the U.S. I should have just stuck with my brain saying Europe. So I feel like I'm about to do the same thing here. That I was my brain says no, they're not going to make the playoffs, and I'm like, well, I should probably pick them because I'm going to stick with my brain and say no, they're not going to make it.
And the reason why I said no is what you led with. It's goaltending. It's been goaltending for the last 14 years. It's goaltending. It's goaltending.
And they're going to need better goaltending because in some sense they may get less goal scoring because they traded away a 27 goal scorer in Peterka. Yes. And they're obviously hoping Josh Norris can fill in the void there, or Yuri Kulik steps up, or Jack Quinn stays healthy and scores. But they're counting on winning. They're counting on winning the 3-2 games this year instead of losing the 3-2 games. So but a lot of that comes down to better D and better goaltending. So they got to get it.
Well, I hope they do. I really do. Because you know what?
Well,
a lot of folks who still work there many years, and they deserve to have their work behind the scenes pay off with a team making the playoffs.
100%.
Including you,
all
Brian.
The friends that
I was going to say, including Brian.
Including you, Cozy.
Feel bad for him.
You've been hanging in there so many years, and how many the calls you take from the depressed and pissed off fans after games. God bless you, man. Holy, like you deserve an award just for that.
18 seasons of hosting postgame for the Sabres.
Oh, God bless
14
you.
in a row without any postseason.
Is it you then?
It must be me.
You know?
Yes. All right. Good note to end on there. Thank you, gentlemen. Appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Sabres a week from tonight. Rangers opener. Anyway.
Yeah.
All right. That'll do it for another edition of our Winter Rules Tee to Green podcast presented by Golf Dojo. You can go to mygolfdojo.com for lessons with Jeff, or you can email him directly, jeff@mygolfdojo.com. Thanks to Jeff Blank, Jeff Meadis, Kevin Sylvester. I'm Brian Koziel. And thanks for all of you for watching. Make sure to follow us on our social media pages at T2G Buffalo on X, on Instagram, and on YouTube. And we'll talk to you next time. Hit them well.